Jeffrey Collins with the Associated Press. Mr. Suttles, do you think there were design or execution problems with the cement job on the Deepwater Horizon? And have y'all done any independent testing to verify whether or not the job had problems or was done correctly?
Well, I should actually say that my only role in this, which I started working on this 2 hours after the event began, has been to deal with the response and to lead our BP's response efforts. I'm not involved in the investigation activity, so I'm just not in a place to be able to comment on that.
Next question.
Isla Dewan with the New York Times. Governor Jindal has expressed concern that there has been a lot of attention paid to where the oil is on the surface, what we can see. How much do we know about where the oil underwater is? Is that being modeled, or are we just waiting for it to wash up on shore to see where it is? And are we going to expect to see more of these tar balls coming up to shore? What's the plan for that?
I'm going to have Admiral Landry comment on that in just a minute. But let me tell you the direction of the President of the United States, and that is we want to be transparent with the entire nation. The nation requires that of us, and so any information that we have, we need to make available. It is a difficult thing to measure, and so there are lots of guesses out there in terms of the amount of flow and the quantity of oil that has already gone out to sea, the amount of oil that has already been cleaned up. But whatever information it is that we have as a government, we want to make available to everybody. And I will have Admiral Landry comment in addition to that.
Yeah, we're working very closely with Governor Jindal and his staff, and certainly we had some visuals on some oil that was dispersed that was sitting about 18 inches below the water column, and we tracked that for how it might come into shore. What we're seeing on the shoreline is tar balls, is some ribbons of emulsified oil. These are not, it's not a huge swath of shoreline that's covered. It's a few places, and we have teams right away ready to respond to that spill and clean that up. What we are also doing is trying to communicate with everybody, and we've taken information that we knew about the oil, and we're trying to translate it to pictures we're getting on these coastlines, whether it's tar balls or the emulsified ribbons. What does it exactly look like? Displaying those pictures on a website and explaining how we would approach the cleanup so that we can mitigate people's concerns that there's something out there that's unknown. We have a pretty good handle on the oil we're dealing with. We have a very good handle on the oil we're dealing with, both at the source, through the water column, and on the surface, and as it hits the shoreline, and we're tracking it constantly. So I would just refer people to the websites, take a look. We're certainly going to communicate this to all the Gulf Coast residents as well, through their states, through their counties, through their parishes, so that everybody has an understanding of the fate of the oil. And we really apologize if people are concerned out there because they haven't gotten enough information. We are pushing this information out, and we will continue to do that to allay people's concerns that there's some looming massive amounts of oil that are unknown to anyone. That's not the case.
Man in the middle.
Hi, this is Ed Lavandero. Ed Lavandero with CNN. Question about the dispersants. I guess to you, Mr. Suttles. How much was in store already that you guys have been able to use, and have you put out an order for more? I guess I'm getting to the issue of there are many people who believe that they're less toxic, more environmentally friendly, or cheaper ways of doing this, and there's some concern that orders have gone out for more dispersants, and I guess people are wondering why you haven't bought those and stuck with the, I guess, Corexit.
Yeah, let me start with explaining what these dispersants do, whether they're applied on the surface or in the subsurface. Their intent is to break the oil into much, much, much smaller droplets. And what that then does is allow the natural degradation process. The microbes in the water actually eat the oil. That's the process. That's why you use dispersants. It's to break it up into much, much smaller pieces and allow the natural process to be accelerated. So that's the way it works. We've been using a Corexit product. We also have a second product now identified to use called CBRAT 4, which we'll begin introducing into the process as well. One of the things we have to understand here is that we have to be able to supply these in sufficient quantities. The good news about using it subsea is we should be able to use considerably less dispersants than we do when we have to apply it to the surface. So if it works as we've seen in the test, it should mean that there's much less oil on the surface, which means our total dispersant usage will drop significantly. and we should be able to monitor and report on that over the next few days.
Can I add something? It's important to also understand that the Corexit and others that are being used are part of an equipment list that has been approved by the federal government and the states through the regional response teams and the national response teams. It's important to understand that there was a pre-approval for this ahead of time, and this is not done just by willy-nilly. Anybody can take a product and put it out there. It's been analyzed in studies as far as what the potential impact is. Now, as far as new technologies and new opportunities for use of products that people are coming forward with, we are really trying to actively engage with those offers, because this is an opportunity for us to do more study and analysis, and we've set up a special team for that through the national response team and the regional response teams. The federal government and the state governments obviously work together, and working with science labs such as LSU and coastal science centers. We're going to take a look at these new technologies and these new offers, but we have pre-approved commodities that are being used now that have gone through this testing and analysis. I would caution us to not get too far ahead in using something that hasn't been tested and analyzed and pre-approved for use. On a wide scale. You can go small scale, but I wouldn't go wide scale like that.
Other questions? How about from the, take it to the phone? To the phone
Operator,
lines?
at this time, please open the line to questions from the callers.
All right, thank you. We will start the question and answer session. If you'd like to ask a question, please press star 1 and unmute your phone to record your name. And please remember, 1 question per line. And please stand by for the first question. Our first question is from Matt Gutman, ABC News. Your line is open.
Thank you. Mr. Suttles, I wonder if you could tell us what specifically went wrong with the insertion tube today.
Yeah, my understanding is that there was an effort to try to put the insertion tube in last night. There is now a second effort underway because that did not work, and the latest that I had from BP is that they hope to be able to have it in place tonight. I want to just comment, Matt, on how this whole thing is really being looked at from our perspective. The first is that these are essentially flow mitigation measures. This is not going to essentially 3 steps to this. The first is to deal with flow mitigation and to try to stop as much of the leak as possible, and that's what this riser insertion procedure is. The second is to essentially stop the well from flowing, and that's going to be the kill efforts that will be underway this week. And then the third will be the ultimate relief well that won't be drilled until August. But it's our hope that through all these efforts that are going, that are underway with BP and the global community that has come together to look at all these different options, overseen now by the group of smartest people on the planet under Secretary Chu's leadership, that the steps that are being taken are the appropriate steps to try to bring this incident into control.
Operator, next question, please.
Next question is from Joel Achenbach, Washington Post. Your line is open.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I didn't really hear an answer to that last question. What happened when you tried to put the riser insertion tube down there? Is Mr. Suttles capable of answering that?
Well, I will have Doug answer that, the specific question. I will say this: every morning at first thing in the morning, we get an update on what exactly is going on. BP has missed the deadline with respect to the scheduled activities that it has underway in a number of different ways. It reflects a reality that they're operating in a very difficult circumstance and in conditions that are very difficult to essentially put in some of the mechanisms that they are trying to put in. As to the exact reasons why the first effort on the riser insertion didn't work, let me turn that over to Doug Suttles, so I'm not guessing as to what exactly happened. Doug?
Yeah. Thank you, Secretary Salazar. Actually, fully agree with what the Secretary's just said. So the challenge here is working in 5,000 feet of water. We've talked about that a lot. What happened last night, this tool sits in a metal frame so that the drill pipe lowered from the Discoverer Enterprise, the drill ship, can connect to it. When they attempted to connect to it, the frame shifted, so they were unable to make that connection. So what they had to do was bring the frame and the tool back to the surface and reorient the frame so that the next attempt to connect would be more successful. So that's the explicit problem we had last night. The adjusted frame and the tool are now back on the seabed, and as we speak, they'll be attempting to make the connection.
Operator, we have time for one last question.
Okay, our last question is from Liz Robbins, New York Times. Your line is open.
Yes, Mr. Suttles, just a follow-up on that. You mentioned how difficult it is to be working 5,000 feet below the surface. In this instance with the riser, was it a temperature problem or a pressure problem that caused the pipe not to be connected?
No, it was actually just the mechanical act of trying to take this 5,000-foot long string of pipe and connect it to this tool. You can imagine trying to do that. It's essentially a mile long into what we would call stab into or connect into this particular tool. Once we insert the tool into the pipe, well, of course, the reason we're using this insertion tool technique is to try to exclude the water so that we won't have the hydrate problem we had the previous time with the containment dome.
Operator, thank you. Thank you, everybody. That